Picture this. It's almost 2,000 years ago. Mount Vesuvius is erupting. Pompeii is disappearing under ash. And one man's final moment is so chaotic that a terracotta bowl ends up on his head. Tragic, yes. Also, weirdly specific.
And now we're in the present, where archaeologists use AI to reconstruct what that victim might have looked like, which is incredible science and also kind of the ultimate reminder that the internet never forgets, even when the internet is a neural network and the victim lived in ancient Rome. Exactly. It's this perfect opening scene for where we are as a culture. Technology can resurrect faces, predict disease, reshape markets, and maybe even run parts of the military. But it still finds a way to make humans feel slightly exposed.
So today we're following a thread that runs through a bunch of headlines that look unrelated at first. Ancient ruins, cancer detection from an eye scan, AI models eating junk data, Wall Street hype, mortgage rates, longevity skincare, even medical marijuana policy. It sounds like a random scroll through your news app, but it's actually one story. We're building a future that can do astonishing things, and then we run straight into the limits of trust, incentives, and plain old human behavior.
Let's start with the part that feels like science fiction turning into routine medicine. Medical AI is getting scary good at finding serious disease early, like pancreatic cancer or heart disease, from something as simple as a scan of your eyes. And that sounds like a miracle, because pancreatic cancer is one of those conditions where early detection can change everything. Yet hospitals are hesitant. Not because the model can't see patterns, because implementing it is messy.
Regulators, liability, workflows, integration, and yes, the eternal villain. Outdated systems that still behave like the fax machine is the peak of innovation. It's wild. We're at the point where a machine might spot something years before a human does, but the real bottleneck is whether the hospital can plug it into their process without breaking everything else, which creates this tension. We have superhuman pattern detection, trapped inside human institutions that change slowly, and that tension shows up again when you look at what's happening to the AI models themselves. Right now, experts are warning that large language models are increasingly training on low-quality, recycled, low-signal data. In other words, digital junk food. And if you feed an intelligence nothing but junk, you don't get wisdom, you get weirdness.
The old rule, garbage in, garbage out. And honestly, it's not just a tech principle, it's a life principle. What you feed your body shapes your energy. What you feed your finances shapes your options. And now we're realizing what you feed an AI shapes the quality of the future tools we all rely on. So while the models are learning from the internet's worst habits, another part of society is saying, cool, let's put AI in charge of very serious things, like the Department of Defense. The Pentagon is pushing an AI acceleration strategy. An AI-first approach. On paper, it's about speed and advantage and modernizing how decisions get made.
And on a human level, you can almost hear the subtext. Maybe the machines will be more consistent than people. Less distracted, less noisy, more reliable. But that also raises the obvious question. If we're worried that AI is being trained on digital trash, how do we make sure critical systems are built on high-quality data, strong oversight, and real accountability? Because AI first can mean smart first, but it can also mean rushed first, depending on incentives. Speaking of incentives, let's pivot to the place where incentive is basically the whole operating system. Wall Street. Big tech earnings are drawing a line in the sand. There are companies with an actual AI strategy, products, infrastructure, revenue paths, and then there are companies with vibes. You mean the say AI on investor calls strategy?
Exactly. Investors are trying to figure out who's going to cash in. The result is a kind of corporate sorting. Show me the plan, show me the capability, show me the moat. And it ties back to medical AI in a weird way. In hospitals, the tech might be ready, but people hesitate. In markets, people are ready to throw money at it, even when the substance isn't always there. So we've got AI spotting cancer early, investors chasing AI winners, and the Pentagon pushing AI forward. Meanwhile, regular life is doing what it always does, testing everyone's budgets. Mortgage rates are a perfect example. Some homeowners are living the dream. Mortgage paid off, extra cash for vacations, money no longer evaporating into interest. And then there's the rest of the world staring at rates around the mid-sixes on a 30-year fixed.
The phrase that keeps hanging over it all is higher for longer. People waited for the big drop, and instead they got the slow creep upward. Which makes every home buyer ask the same question on repeat. Do I lock now or do I wait? And the answer changes constantly. One day it's steady, the next it's up again, and suddenly you're refreshing rate charts like they're social media. And if a 30-year fixed feels like too much, people start looking sideways at alternatives. A 5-to-1 adjustable rate mortgage can be lower at the start, something like the mid-fives recently, so it's tempting if you think you'll move or refinance before the adjustment hits. But it's also a bet. It's a timeline gamble. You're wagering that future you will have better options than now you. Meanwhile, the refinance world lights up whenever rates cooperate. Freddie Mac, for example, can see profits jump when refinances surge, because when borrowing gets cheaper, people rush to redo their loan.
So the financial system has its own version of garbage in, garbage out too. The inputs are rates, policy, consumer confidence. The outputs are affordability, mobility, and whether people feel like they can take a breath. Okay, let's shift from money to lifespan, because there's a parallel story happening in beauty, wellness, and medicine. The vibe is changing from fight aging to age well. And that's not just a slogan. The beauty world is leaning into longevity as a long-term project, not a panic response. Instead of acting like wrinkles are an emergency, the messaging is more like, can you build a life where you look and feel good decades from now? Brands are even hosting events around it, pop-ups and panels that frame longevity like a journey, and we're already seeing talk about upcoming launches in skincare and hair care that are positioned around longevity rather than quick fixes.
Which is honestly refreshing. Not how do I look 20 forever, but how do I look vibrant at 80? And once you step into longevity, you run into the biohacking conversation.
This is where it gets intense. Scientists are fascinated by gut bacteria and how certain microbes might influence metabolism in ways that resemble GLP-1 effects. Think of it as your microbiome doing some of the heavy lifting, if you can cultivate the right mix. And then you've got people pushing the extreme edge. Some longevity enthusiasts are experimenting with the idea of delaying menopause far into later life. That's not mainstream medicine. It's more like a preview of the ethical and biological questions we're about to be forced to answer.
Even the high-profile health turnarounds tell a story. You'll hear about wealthy, powerful people getting their lab numbers read like a warning label, then getting put on strict regimens designed to extend their health span, not just their lifespan.
And it circles back to what we said earlier, inputs and outputs. Whether it's your gut, your skin, your cardiovascular risk, or your energy, what you feed the system matters. Which brings us to policy, because policy quietly decides what's possible and what's expensive. The federal government moving toward reclassifying medical marijuana is a big example.
If medical marijuana gets reclassified, producers could see major tax relief, and researchers might have far fewer barriers to studying real medical effects. That's one of those changes that sounds bureaucratic until you realize it reshapes an entire industry and the science around it. So we've got AI racing forward, health culture shifting toward longevity, and policy adjusting the playing field. Now let's land somewhere surprisingly powerful: listening. Because in a world full of automation, the human skill that suddenly becomes rare is genuine attention. There are simple ways to become a noticeably better listener: tiny facial cues, body language that signals you're present, and responses that prove you understood, not just heard.
And what's funny is how that mirrors the AI conversation. Everyone wants systems that understand. But with people, understanding often starts with small signals: eye contact, nodding at the right moments, not jumping in to compete, reflecting back what someone said. It's not flashy, but it changes everything. Conversations get deeper. Trust improves. And trust is the missing ingredient in so many of these stories. Hospitals trusting AI, investors trusting companies, citizens trusting policy, buyers trusting the mortgage timeline.
So if we zoom out, what happened in this episode? We started with a man in Pompeii, frozen in time, and we ended up in the most modern question possible. What do we do with powerful tools when our systems and our habits aren't ready?
AI can recreate a face from ancient tragedy. It can scan an eye and flag a deadly risk. It can supercharge companies and defense strategies, but it can also get trained on junk, produce junk, and amplify junk if we let the incentives drift. And in the background, real life keeps happening. People trying to buy homes under shifting rates, people trying to extend their healthiest years, industries waiting for policy to catch up, and all of us trying to connect in conversations that don't feel like we're talking past each other.
Maybe that's the resolution here. The future isn't just about smarter machines. It's about better inputs, better data, better institutions, better health habits, better financial decisions, and better listening.
Because whether you're training a model or training a life, the output can't be better than what you consistently put in.
And somewhere out there, that Pompeii victim is probably thinking, of all the things you could have done with AI, you picked my bull on the head moment.
History teaches humility. Technology just finds new ways to deliver it. Please subscribe at IamHealthyMoney.com. It would mean so much more than you know. I will continue to bring you fascinating subjects with all the research so you don't have to do it all alone. We will learn together. and then wait until the end of each video for a sneak peek into the next research project. Life has its ups and downs, but you're not alone.
From 10 to 110, we're in this together, right here, right now.
We love ya.